And I just turned around and I hauled ass out of there. I was done. I wasn't dealing with that.
The hypocrisy of the cult is one of the things that turned me away the quickest.
When I turned my headlights on, it turned and looked at us. And one of the things I remember the most were the eyes were glowing red.
I see an orb of light. It is just circling these steps like it is waiting for me.
And he begins to tell them that he saw a UFO. They're basically like, what are you talking about? That's 7 foot up on a tree, peeking around it, and that's where I saw the top of the muzzle, nose, and the eyes. As soon as I made eye contact with this thing, it felt like death.
Welcome back to Tinfoil Tales. I'm your host, Brandon Wright. Tonight we're going to be joined by my guest, John. John is the host of TGI Now podcast. He's going to come on here tonight, talk a little bit about several years ago when they were doing the whole Storm Area 51. He happened to be out there. He wasn't really involved in that, but he was in the area and seen Area 51. And then we talk a little bit about some of the weird stuff that's going on down in Florida that he thinks about. I'm looking forward to talking to him. But before we bring John on, if you've ever had an experience and you'd like to be on an episode of Tinfoil Tales, there's a couple things you can do. You can send an email to tinfoiltalespodcast@gmail.com, or you can go to tinfoiltales.com and go to the contact section. Just make sure to reach out to me, and we will get something scheduled for a future episode. If you'd like to help the podcast out, please share it around. Word of mouth is the best way of helping the podcast grow. You can also leave a 5-star rating and review wherever you listen to Tinfoil Tales out, and it helps me fight the algorithms. If you're interested in helping the podcast out, you can become a member of the Patreon. You get early access to all the episodes, and they're all ad-free. It's only $1.99 a month. Worth checking out. Make sure to follow me around on all the social medias, Facebook and Instagram. We're going to go ahead now and dive into the conversation with John. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. I'd like to take this time to welcome my guest tonight, John. Thanks for coming on here and talking to me.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me.
Would you like to let the audience know a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Name's John Corapi. I'm down in the Florida area. Been down here for 40 years or so. Grew up in Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Started a podcast for recently the past 3 years. I've been doing a podcast with two of my friends. We started a podcast called TGI Now, which is Thank God It's Now. And so we talk about a lot of local stuff, political stuff, and then we get into how to live in the now, just speaking your truth, real authentic truth talk and freedom of speech. And it's been going really well. We've really been an enjoyable experience, and just getting the voice out there and letting people come in and speak their truth. And the two other guys I have on the podcast, Eddie and Rondell, we're three different people. We're one's older Hispanic man, and then we have Rondell's a 33-year-old black guy, and then I'm a 57-year-old white guy. So we have three different perspectives, three different opinions on things, and from three different generations. So it's definitely a cool mix for a podcast, and that's why we started it. So it's been a fun run, and I've enjoyed going on different podcasts with other people like yourself, Brandon. I really appreciate you having me, and I like having guests on my show and then doing shows with other people. So I appreciate that.
Hey, not a problem. Glad to have you.
Yeah, man.
What made you decide you wanted to do a podcast?
Oh, good question. Well, I did radio for years back in the 2007 to 2009 range. I did a sports radio show, was locally on the AM channel and here in Florida. And after that, I started doing a lot of nonprofit things in the community, outreach, doing TV interviews, radio interviews, things of that nature. And then during the pandemic, I happened to be working for a local chamber of commerce here in my town, and I went out to the school board and spoke up against the mask mandates on the kids. The mental health. I was really concerned with what they were doing, trying to force this stuff on the kids. And so I went out there and just, as a parent, spoke my truth. And about a week later, I got fired from that job for doing that. So I was like, wow. I was like, well, all these years of being an advocate in the community, being on the radio, and raising money for the community, and then all of a sudden I go out there and I speak my mind for a minute, without hesitation, and some people didn't like it, and then I ended up losing that job, and so I thought, you know what, maybe I'm going to start speaking my truth. I'm going to use my radio voice, and I already had a friend of mine. We were actually talking about doing a podcast, and I was like, I might not want to do that because I work with the Chamber of Commerce, and if they hear anything that I say, they might not like it, and then of course it ended up happening anyway. So I basically got, called to purpose to do it. So I felt like I was called to do that. And then we started speaking locally, and then I ended up, bringing guests in to speak their truth and, tell them how they feel about what's going on in the world, and, what their opinion is. And everybody has a different opinion, and we just let that happen. And so that's how it organically happened, which is kind of cool. And I've been doing it ever since. And the studio ended up in my house. So who would have thought I would have had a studio in my house 3.5 years ago?
It's always an
Crazy.
interesting story when people speak their mind or have an opinion about something that doesn't go with the status quo, because then all of a sudden your freedoms and rights or whatever apparently don't really matter.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, that's, yeah. I mean, that's what really happened. And then, and so now I've gone in a different direction, in my career and doing other things. You're not making, any money really doing the podcast, but like just just the fact that people recognize it in the community and are like, hey, I really appreciate what you're saying, and we know we like what you're doing, and keep up the good work, and keep speaking your truth. And you see that it's contagious at that point, so it helps other people decide to speak, think for themselves, not be afraid to talk about things that might be that aren't status quo or aren't part of the narrative.
Anytime I've talked with someone that's had an opinion about certain things, we don't refer to, there's words we can't say.
Yeah.
Again, it's censored in around here, which is stupid because we're not supposed to have censorship, but there's certain words that algorithms will pick up and it'll actually start like flagging my episodes because it's happened to me several times.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So
yeah.
we don't say certain words about 2020 because again,
yep.
But that whole time frame, there was a huge uptick in people starting podcasts. I was like, well, no crap, the world is shut down.
Yep.
So everyone had to figure out something to do. That's literally how I started thinking about doing this show, because the world was shut down. You couldn't do anything else. And that's when I actually started listening to podcasts, because I'd never listened to podcasts before because I didn't care. But
yeah, that's true. Good point.
That's just, like I said, I come from a music background. So for me, like I was doing band stuff, and when I couldn't do band stuff no more, I started listening to podcasts because I was like, I wonder if people have had experiences or whatever about some weird things. And I wanted to talk about weird things. And then the ideas that I had for making a cool podcast, I was like, well, shit, there's a lot of people doing this.
All right. No, yeah. And it's the thing is that people like that. They like to feel like, like they want to listen to somebody. Like our show is like three guys in a room. We're 420 friendly. So we roll up some blunts. We have a sponsor that provides food for us, and we just sit down and we have a conversation, and people are starting to be drawn to that now because they don't want to watch the scripted news, and they know that it's scripted, and they know that certain things are a narrative that's putting you in a certain frequency that you want to, that they want you to be in a trance to believe everything they tell you, because we call it tell lies to your vision. And so I just noticed that. I was like, wow, like people want to hear this. And some of the guests that I started bringing on the show would be like, this is really cool how you guys are just doing this. And, I don't feel alone. Like when I talk about this stuff, it makes me feel like at least there's other people out there that feel the same way that I do. And I started to see people transform in front of me. Like when they started to speak their truth, you could tell that the authenticity would come out of it. And you could start to see the transformation, especially like during 2020, like you said, people weren't afraid to speak up anymore.
Right. Yeah, it's just, we called them the Beast era on another show. Like we refer to it as like the Beast times, the Beastly times, or whatever. Modernized Dark Ages.
Yeah. It's the darkness that we needed to bring us to the light. So to bring you to, so you're doing your show, and then I started my show, and then I started a separate show outside the show that I started, and did it with my son. And me and my son started talking about spirituality and, and raising your frequency and opening your mind and thinking for yourself. And talking about certain books that are help you awaken, and so me and my son started doing a little one ourselves, so I was trying to pass that down to my son, because when you're when you're going through an awakening, the best thing you can do is share that awakening with your child, to show your child, that don't be afraid to speak up. Don't be afraid to speak your truth no matter what,
Mm-hmm. Well, when you reached out, we talked about some of the things that you could talk about. You had some experiences with stuff. So if you'd like to dive into that, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, cool. Back in 2019, September of 2019, right before COVID, I started, making some friends on social media because people were starting to come together and they were starting to talk about certain things that they agreed upon and certain beliefs and whatnot, and going through the awakening process. And so remember that Storm Area 51 that they had back then that it went viral, if you remember that.
I do, because we were laughing because the memes going around, we're going to go bust out aliens and clap alien cheeks or something.
Right, yeah. So for some reason, these people that I started hooking up with on Facebook, they wanted to go out to this event, but they didn't want to participate in the hype of whatever people were doing. They had a ranch right outside of Area 51 called like literally on the outskirts of it. So it was a private ranch, but it was also a forward testing site for nuclear testing. And so this gentleman owned this ranch, and he offered for us to be able to come out there and do a Area 51, retreat. But it wasn't, for the storm thing. It was just for us to have a gathering and to just, and just get to know each other and just check it out. And then actually, go walk out into the desert, because you could walk close to Area 51 from where this ranch was at. And so me and my girlfriend, we decided to go out there. I called her up. I'm like, hey, these guys want to go do this. They want to, have this retreat. They want to do it during their Storm Area 51. We'll fly into Vegas. We'll go out to Area 51. We'll check out the city. We've never been out this way before. Let's go check it out. So we ended up going out there, and so the first night we get there, we don't know anybody. We're, getting to know everybody. Everybody's got their campers set up and whatnot. And, we're checking out the atmosphere. So the next night, we all decided to go out into the desert, like to walk towards Area 51 that night. And, we weren't taking any psychedelics. We weren't doing any kind of, drinking or anything of that nature. And so we all got, and, when the sun went down, it started getting dark. It was like maybe 8, 9 o'clock at night. We start heading out towards Area 51. And I'll tell you, man, I've never seen so many things in my life above me that were moving around, doing all kinds of different motions, all kinds of lights happening. It was absolutely mesmerizing what they were doing out there. And the whole time I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, what is going on? Like, why am I seeing all this out here? What are they doing out here? And of course, after you figure, you see it and you realize this is all just a testing site for whatever reverse engineering of whatever technology that we've have gotten a hold of and have been hiding in this place. They test that stuff at night, and they do it right there out in the open. And I mean, you'll see I saw triangular ships with 3 lights on it, just moving real slow across the sky. We saw things zipping through the sky like a shooting star, just constantly, just things just moving around. It was just absolutely mesmerizing. And I've never seen anything again like it ever since. I mean, it was just, you just know that there's some things going on out there that we're just obviously not being told.
I wanted to go out there several years ago when we went out to Vegas, but it's so far of a drive, and we didn't have a vehicle because we had Ubered from flying out there, so I never got a chance to do that.
Okay, yeah. It is a little bit of a ride.
If I ever get to go back out there, I do plan on at least driving up that way. I know you can't really see anything, but for me, it's just more or less getting as far as I can, be like, yep, I made it here.
Yeah, and you can't. I mean, you will if you went out there and you had like a camper and you stopped at one of the campsites and just went out there and spent the night or two out there, just close enough to the base to where you could see, because it's such a different sky. It's very clear. You can see this. It's just a whole. I mean, I live in Florida, and Florida, it used to be a different sky too, until they started spraying all the time. But that's another subject for another podcast. But it's never like always clear and sunny or clear at night anymore like it used to be. And out there, it was just so different. And you just realize, like, and then when you talk to the locals, you ask them questions, and because we would go to like certain little pubs and stuff in that area, and you would ask them questions, and they'd want to talk about it, but to them, it's just like it's just normal to them. You would see planes at night. It's the same thing with them. They see stuff above you, but they don't question it anymore because it's so familiar now. It's kind of weird when you're there.
Right.
You
For
know.
me, it's like people see this stuff. We see stuff around here a lot, but there's also the Air Force Base not too far from us.
Mm.
It's not an active base, quote unquote,
Mm.
but everyone still
Interesting.
sees a lot of weird stuff flying around here at nighttime. I don't
Yeah.
know if it's from the base. I would assume it probably is because the way I see it with my conspiracy brain over here,
Yeah.
if you have a decommissioned base, it's just an inactive base, it's like a refueling place or whatever, and they do painting of jets and everything. It's a perfect place to actually store some stuff because, well, this is not an active base,
Yeah.
but they got the runway, they got the hangars, they got all this other stuff. So for me, I think they probably got some shady things going on out there.
Yeah, there's no doubt after we had that experience, I definitely all I could think of was like what do they do, what are they testing out here, like what are they doing, what are they hiding from us, this is major stuff, but then once you go down the rabbit hole and you realize like Majestic 12 and all that stuff was all designed for all that to keep it and cover it all up all this time, so that's where you have to go see it for yourself. So I would definitely, yeah, if you get a chance, I would definitely go out there and check it out. I mean, you don't see stuff all the time every night, but if you pick the right night, you'll definitely see it. Because it was weird because like the first night we were there, I was looking up and I was checking stuff out and I noticed nothing. And then that day I was paying attention to the sky during the day while we were walking out in the desert. We did some hiking and whatnot. And the sky was so clear, and it was like there was no planes at all. There was no planes flying above us. We didn't see any planes just cruising along. It was like it was completely no fly zone the whole time, all day. And then that night, when we went out there that time, it was like fireworks. It was insane. I couldn't believe it.
It would be it'd be cool for me. Like, I don't know if anyone else ever went out there with me if they'd find it as cool, but just knowing that I at least saw something and made it out there, knowing I'm a huge X-Files fan. I'm a huge fan of like aliens and spaceships.
Nice.
And all.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like, it's just one of those things that, like, I can check off. I made it to Area 51, even though I didn't make it to the base because if I tried that, I'd be shot. But
yeah,
I was
you're
laughing
right.
when all the whole Storm Area 51 stuff was going on. All the memes and everything just cracking me up. I busted in there and clapping alien cheeks. And like, I see people making memes of them riding out with like a little gray alien in the back, on their back, like running out of there with it, trying to help them escape. I was like, you guys are idiots.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that part was crazy. That was, yeah, I knew that was like so overhyped, but it was like we went the opposite direction to where they were all going to do their little festivals and whatever. We were lucky we were able to go around the other side, on the other side of Area 51, on the western side. So we were away from that hype. So it made it much more relaxing to just to go be able to enjoy it, not be involved in that mess, because there was a lot of cars driving out there when we headed out there. But yeah, I would definitely recommend it, and it's a cool experience because you know that something's going on there, and you know something's being hidden. So like when you're a conspiracy like that, you see it, you're just like, I knew it, I knew they got some kind of technology, I knew it. Like, it's all I could think of when I was out there. I was like, I knew it.
When we first got to Vegas, and this, I understand why it's called Sin City.
Yeah.
The first thing, we went out there in August of 2020, so right during the big pandemic era. And the first thing we come to, like, we get off the airplane, we get a Uber to bring us to wherever we're going, and they drop us off right in the middle of downtown. The first thing we walk down these stairs, we see a lady taking a crap just right on the edge of the sidewalk, like right over. I was like, this is,
Oh my God.
this is bizarre. She's talking to herself or whatever. I was like, okay. You go down the ways a little bit, like, we found our motel, did this and that, and then like later on at night, we come back out that way, and we stayed at the Bellagio, so it was a nice, big, fancy
Yeah.
place. But the areas around it, like just on the main strip, is just so strange with so many different people. And there was a guy passing out pamphlets for like Jesus and like little Bible stuff and everything else. And
Mhm.
literally 10 feet beside of him was a lady passing out pamphlets for prostitutes.
Oh my God.
I was
Wow.
like, this really is Sin City because
Jeez.
like
Yeah.
it's just craziness. And again, we got
It,
yelled at because the mask wasn't over my nose.
oh
Like
yeah, of course.
you had to have the everywhere you went had to have the mask on. Could go in any place without
Oh.
that. And if you could be out there smoking a joint in front of a police officer, they didn't care as long as you had your mask over your nose. I was like, but if you're taking a puff of your blunt, how are you supposed to cover your mouth?
Right? Oh my God. Yeah, it's a definitely has a weird vibe to it. That was the first time I was out there too. It definitely had a weird vibe when I got off the thing was when I got off the plane and I was like walking around and when we went and got the rental car, like the first thing I kept telling my girlfriend was I was like I've been here before. Like I felt like I had already been there. I've already experienced it. So there was like it was just this premonition that I knew I was supposed to be there at that time, and it just felt so familiar. Like it was all like it was this again. This was before 2020, so it was right before, and so I didn't have to experience the whole thing you did with the mask and all that. This was right before the pandemic came, so it was a different feel. But it definitely, yeah, you get that it has a weird vibe to it. And then when we went out in the desert, you could tell there was like a more of a spiritual thing out there too, because it was almost like it was sacred ground, even though they used it for testing sites and stuff like that. It was like there was something familiar with it, with the whole feel of the desert and and just seeing what I saw. It was like I knew I was like I was supposed to be here for a reason, and that's what it seemed to work out to be. Because we
Mm-hmm.
even saw like orbs and stuff like that. Like we were sitting around the fire, and all of a sudden I saw this green orb like go by real quick in the tree, and I knew it wasn't just me because the woman next to me saw it too. She's like, "Did you see that?" And I was like, "You saw that, didn't you?" She's like, "Yeah." Well, and she's like, "What was it?" I said, "I knew it was. It was like an orb, right?" And she goes, "Yeah." And she's like, "I go, was it green?" And she goes, "Yep." And she goes, It was like I was." So we saw other things too while we were just gathered out there too, like just sitting there having a fire, just camaraderie. All these people that never met each other before. Like there was a reason for it for sure. And then the pandemic hit, so you could definitely feel that feel.
Yeah. For me, like I said, I kind of miss like the years before pandemic because
Yeah, right.
things were a little less as expensive as it is today. But
Yeah.
that again, that's something for another discussion. But you mentioned something, and you said the spray in the skies. You got
Yep.
my mind going now. I would like to know what I was referring to because I have an idea, but
Yeah, yeah. I mean, over the year, I mean, lived in Florida for 40 years, and I always say this all the time. My girlfriend says the same thing. She's been down there for 25 years. Like it's never the sky and the atmosphere and the sun is it's so different. Like it's never like it's supposed to be the sunshine state, but it's never like just a clear, sunny day. Like it's just never like I wake up in the morning, it's sunny, and then by 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning, it's overcast. It just becomes cloudy all of a sudden, and then you look in the sky and you see these planes flying and spraying all this stuff in the sky, and it turns into these clouds, and it's overcast, and it just blocks the sun out, and it just kills the whole day, and you just realize like what is going on, and you feel the atmosphere is different. It's a whole different feel, especially in the last couple of years. I mean, it's really accelerated a lot. It's a little disturbing, and and it's like I said, it's not the sunshine state like it used to be.
right. For
You
me,
know,
my dad's from Florida.
yeah.
I enjoy Florida, but I also don't enjoy Florida. It gets too hot for me.
Oh yeah, yeah,
That's I'm from Indiana. Everyone's like, "Oh, you got
yeah.
humidity in Indiana." I was like, "Yeah, but it's still pretty
Oof, no.
miserable down south."
The humidity's it's nasty still. It's got a stickiness like it always has, but
Right.
it's definitely got a different feel to it than in past the past 5 years. I mean, even this hurricane that we had, the Helene and the other one Milton.
Right.
That when Milton came, all those tornadoes that spawned off in Florida, that was unheard of. That was geoengineered. That was all like we were attacked. Like I basically look at it like that. We were attacked by weather warfare because, I mean, I was sitting in my house, just sitting out on the back porch. The Hurricane Milton was three hours off the coast of Tampa. I live on the east coast of Florida, so the hurricane was a good 6 hours, if not longer, 8 hours away from my home. And all of a sudden, the wind just starts whipping up, starts pouring rain. My pool starts overflowing within like 20 minutes, and I'm like, "Whoa!" I'm like, "I've lived in this house for 20 years, and my pool is overflowing up into my back porch." I'm like, "That's never ever happened before." I'm like, why are we getting so much rain all of a sudden? And the hurricane, these aren't even outer bands of the hurricane. It was like this stuff was just drummed up out of nowhere. Next thing you know, I'm getting all these alerts on my phone. Boop, 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 tornado, 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 tornado. I'm like, what's going on? Like I felt like we were being attacked from above. And the next thing you know, tornadoes were ripping through all these towns all around me. Like there was like never before. It was turned into Tornado Alley within like 20 minutes. It was insane.
There's a lot of stories going around about that whole thing.
Yeah.
And the first episode we ever recorded was about weather control.
Okay.
And I'm not really one to say yes or no to that because I even brought it up. And my stance is kind of the same. I try to remain skeptical a lot of the time, but
yeah,
I can see where it's a possibility that they can manipulate weather because they've admitted to doing such things.
100%.
But I don't think they have the capabilities of actually dictating directions and making things happen here and there like that. Like if they have that, like if that capability exists, I feel like everyone, there would be no wars in the sense of what we do now because we could just create a storm and wipe out the enemy.
Yeah. No, I see that. I mean, my buddy on the podcast, TGI Now podcast, Eddie, he said the same thing when we did a whole episode about the weather because we went through it. We were all had our opinion on what it was, and he said the same thing. He's like, well, if they could control it, why do they steer it into the coast? Why don't they steer it out into the ocean away from everybody? And I'm like, well, if you had that kind of power, you can control the weather. You can control the planet. So I mean, if they're able to steer it away from it, they would just steer it into it to cause chaos and destruction too. And that's what I start to like realize over the years of living here. Like when I first moved here in 86, like we never had any threats of hurricanes. 86, 87, 88, 89, nothing until Hurricane Andrew blew through in 92. And that just tore up a whole little town down in Miami. Just this massive, Category 5, and that was like in 92. But then ever since then, we hardly had any. And again, we hardly had any hurricanes, and homeowners insurance wasn't that expensive. And then over time, all of a sudden, these storms got worse and worse and worse. And I started to realize, like, they're spraying in the sky. They're doing more spraying. We're not the sunshine state anymore because it's always cloudy all the time. It's never a clear, sunny day in Florida. It's very, very rare. I've been paying attention to this for a while. My brother's a roofer for the last 30 years. He looks at the sky all the time as a roofer, and he tells me the same thing, that it's just not the same anymore. The sky just is. They're doing something to the weather, and they're doing something to create these type of situations. Now, whether they can steer them or not, what remains to be seen. But to make them be as many and as frequently as they do, it seems like there's some kind of control.
I noticed the other night. Well, actually, I'll give credit to my wife. She said that something outside looked strange, so I went out and I took a photo of it. And with these new iPhones, they have the capability of making anything dark like appear in the sky better. And
okay,
it was a trail from a plane, but it was kind of low. I took a photo of it. I'm like, if you start going out and looking, you see all these things, and everyone says that it's been around since probably the 70s. I think the whole rumor had started about chemtrails, but
yeah,
I can 100% see that has some sort of impact on the environment, on the atmosphere and everything else. I don't think that every jet out there is seeding, but I think maybe their exhaust fumes or whatever that they're burning does play something here and there on the atmosphere. But I also see the possibility that they could be going up there and releasing chemicals and stuff and seeding clouds and making storms and everything else. I know everyone wants to point out the HARP machine
Yeah.
up in Alaska.
Yeah.
There's just so much stuff to it. Like, no one really has an answer. I remember watching an episode of Jesse Ventura's conspiracy show back in the
Right.
early
Yeah.
2000s or mid 2000s or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And he tried to go up there and they wouldn't let him on there. And he was like, well, he's a governor. And this. And I was like, yeah, but you're not a governor now and you have no business up there.
Yeah. I
But
remember that. Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
it's just strange.
Well, I mean, other examples I could give you too, though, like, like in Florida, we used to be the orange state, orange juice and all that. Well, guess what? Like, I have an orange tree and the soil and the whatever's coming in the rain, whatever they're putting seeding the clouds and whatever kind of rain that we're getting, it's not giving the nutrients to the ground like it once did, the soil and the ground. So we don't have any orange trees. They all got killed by canker. And what happened was when we had our hurricanes in 2004, when we had these two back-to-back hurricanes, one of them actually did a U-turn in the middle of the ocean and came back and hit the exact same spot of where I live back-to-back within a month's time. You can look them up, Francis and Jean. And Jean did a U-turn in the middle of the ocean. So after this happened in Florida just recently with those hurricanes, I went back and looked at Francis and Jean again, and I looked at Jean, and I was like, you know what? Now that I look at it with a different set of eyes, that hurricane did a U-turn in the middle of the ocean, and it looks like it was steered on that purpose for that reason. And like it literally does when you look at the forecast, you're like, wow, like that thing was supposed to go up the coast, and all of a sudden it does a U-turn and comes back and hits us exactly the same place it hit us 2 weeks prior to that. So then I was like, wow. And then after that, all the oranges started, they started saying, oh, we got canker, and those two storms produced record massive amounts of rain. And so after that, all of a sudden we had all these issues with orange trees, and now the orange trees can't even sustain in Florida anymore. So if you can explain that to me too, like those are things that I look back at and I go, they're doing something to whatever they're doing to the clouds, and it's destroying the soil too, the nutrients in the ground. And I don't know if that's by design or what it is, the chemicals they're spraying in the sky and in the clouds. I don't know, but it's definitely destroying the soil in the state. I can tell you that.
My biggest hang up on everything like that is, and I know what the conspiracy brain answer is, but I go back to why are they doing that to us?
I know.
Like, if this is all real and this stuff is going on, like, why are they doing this type of stuff to us? But
that's a great question. I actually think about that a lot, and I look at like when I first moved here, like we'd be able to drive to to school, and we'd be able to stop at the local, fresh squeezed orange juice place where the Grove was and get like fresh squeezed orange juice for free, like on the way to school. And I'm like, but that disappeared. Like, where did that go? Like, so is it because they're doing it on purpose to destroy our atmosphere and to destroy the nutrients of the planet, and also to keep us at a low vibration? Because that was free orange juice that was good for you, that was good for your body, but now it doesn't occur anymore. Everything is online, everything's manufactured, everything's synthetic. Even the orange juice that you get now is not good. It's crap. Even the stuff that I get that we get that's local, that's stuff that's not very good. It's just like you can see the difference is what I'm getting, the point I'm getting to. So it seems like it's just a gradual reasoning to keep us at a low frequency, so we don't get the good nutrients that we get, so we don't get the sun, because the sun is good for you and it's good for your skin. It's like I have a pool, and I used to go out and I used to be able to lay in my pool, and like the sun would be out all day and I'd get like a sunburn. Now it's like I'm in a different state. Like it doesn't happen anymore. Like that's not the norm anymore where you can get sunburn. My brother works out on a roof, and he doesn't get as much sun as he used to because of the reasoning for spraying the sky and covering the sun and keeping us at a low frequency. And so he, like in his days off, he'll go and sit out in the sun because he doesn't get any sun while he's on the roof doing a roof all day. So that just tells me that there's something gradually being done, and that can be almost a fact. It's almost proven, because I'm telling you that it's my experience of what I've seen for 40 years. And that's all we can do, is to tell our truth and discern for ourselves and have these conversations like we're doing.
And then people out there saying that we're just crazy people wearing tinfoil hats. It's like, well, that's why my show's called what it is. because I'm trying to block out the bad frequencies.
And you're right. And see, and that's what it is. It's like it is the frequencies that they're putting out there, that what they're spraying, the 5G, everything, the things that we can't see, the internet, the wireless technology, the phone that me and you are talking on right now. It's just the ear pods that people wear. Everybody walks around with ear pods on. They got these things and they don't know what they're doing to their brain. It's all keeping us in a low frequency. That's why it is a great show that the tinfoil hat, because of that fact that you have to protect your energy. And you have to protect yourself from the elements that they're trying to keep you in a low frequency by the spraying, by the crap in the water, and not be able to get good orange juice when you live in Florida. That's what makes me laugh. I mean, I have a little orange tree on the side of my house. And poor thing's like is trying so hard to grow oranges. So that's my little experiment to prove to myself that this place isn't the same as it once was not that long ago.
We had a pear tree out back when we first bought the place, and the old guide said that never grew pears. I went out and I cut down some branches, like just kind of cut them back and everything. And then the next year, there was so many freaking pears on it. And the following year, we ended up cutting the tree down because there were so many pears on it. They stunk. They were rotting. There were so many bees out there. They stung my kid on the head. And I was like,
oh my God.
We ended up cutting the tree down. But I just thought it was strange that he literally said it never grew, and then I go out and trim it back, and the next year it's just like overflowing with pears.
Well, and again, that's a frequency. Like you decided to go out there and give it your attention, because remember, we turn our back on Mother Nature too. Like a lot of times when we get distracted with things and football and life and things on TV and politics and elections, that we don't pay attention to nature. So we just say, oh, it's not going to grow anything. I just gave up on it. But you gave it some attention and some energy and gave it back its life, because that's how powerful we are. And that's the answer to the question of why they're doing what they're doing to the sky and everything and the atmosphere, because they know how powerful we are. And the only way to keep us at a low frequency is to destroy everything that's really God. Like anything that has God in it, anything that's nature, anything that's natural and real, they have to destroy so that we don't raise our frequency and then be able to have an awakening to the fact that where we can create a better reality than we live in now. See what I'm saying?
I get asked this a lot, and who are they? Everyone's like, when you say they do this, who are they? I was like, well, the ones that pull the strings. Like, if I knew their name specifically, I probably wouldn't be able to say it because I don't think it'd ever get out there.
Yeah, I mean, that's a question I get asked a lot too, and I try to think of it as more of like an unseen, like, because it's a spiritual battle. So I kind of look at it from like an unseen realm, like it's forces that we can't see that we're battling against, and they use souls or they use vessels in this reality, like a game, to where they get them to do their dirty deeds for them. So there's a spiritual battle that we can't see that we have to protect ourselves from. So then when something happens in the physical, like if they're doing evil deeds, any of the stuff that, that the people say they're conspiracy that maybe aren't, and they're doing things to kids that they shouldn't be doing. They get their minions, they get their souls to do it for them. So they're almost possessed. It's almost like a demonic, possession of sorts that we're battling against. It's not flesh and blood. It's a spiritual battle. And I see it in my own life, in my own world, a lot of times with my child and the things that I see him do. And I'm like, yeah, there's a demon trying to attach itself to my kid. Like, you can see it. You can feel it once you awaken to it, when you decalcify your pineal gland and you get off the heavy metals of certain things and you detox yourself. You're able to see things with a different set of lenses. It's like the movie They Live. I always say, you put those glasses on and you see what other people can't see. If you ever watch that movie, I'm sure you probably have.
Yeah, I actually wanted to get it on Blu-ray. I haven't been able to find it. I'm sure.
That would be good to get it on Blu-ray. I have it on DVD. I'm that old school. I still have it on DVD. I bought it in DVD long time ago. That movie depicts everything that you when you just watch it from a different set of lenses, you're like, yeah, you just got to put the glasses on. That's why the fight is such a long fight between Rowdy Piper and the other guy, is because it's the fight of awakening. Like, put the glasses on. Don't you see they're spraying in the sky? Put the glasses on. Wearing the mask isn't going to save us from a virus. Put the glasses on. You need to. Don't you see that this is what they're trying to do to us? And the guy's like, I don't want to see it. I have wife and kids. I don't need to see that. I want to just be comfortable watching my Eagles game and not being distracted. And I want to just focus on that. Don't tell me that this is what's happening. I don't want to know that. That's why I refer to that movie a lot, because of that reason, because it's so simply put that it's just like that's what we're being deceived by. And they're some of them are human and other ones are non-physical beings that we can't see until we put the glasses on. And you're like, oh
Right.
shit, there they are.
Yeah. That's I've had this conversation with my friends before, but I think there's certain Hollywood movies, and I think there's certain directors and there's writers, they know truth and they kind of just put little hints in there. And that's how we get to where we're at right now, because they're letting us know what's going on subliminally.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes.
We
absolutely.
see it as entertainment and everything, but it's them just kind of already letting us know. I think that's, someone said before that they have to make it known to you. So this is how they make it known to keep up with the illusion of everything else. But it's not an illusion because they're open about it. It's just behind the scenes.
Bingo. And that's the whole purpose of it, is it's called informed consent, just like everything else. So like when we pay the money to go see the movie, we go and spend the $10, we buy the popcorn, we sit in front of the screen and we watch the movie and we agree to it. So we create their reality for them by using our power, how powerful our minds are. We create it for them, but the only way they get us to do it is for us to give them the consent. Say, oh, this is what you're going to do to us? Yeah, that looks like fun. Cool. All this destruction and all this chaos, and we're watching the movie going, yeah, that was really good. Then you leave the theater and you're like, man, that was a great movie. And you go home and you go lay down in bed, and now you're being subconsciously programmed because you consented to watching that movie. It's that simple. But we didn't see it before. See, that's what blows people's minds when they realize, like, oh shit, like I gave them the consent to do this to me. Oh, I didn't realize that. And that's why I don't go to movies anymore. That's why I don't, participate in that stuff anymore. And it's all because the farther you see it, the more you get awakened to it, the more you don't want to give your energy to it, because that's how they siphon your energies, by you going to the movies. So people are still going to the movies now, but they're still consenting to the agenda, but I don't do it because I see what's happening, so I don't give my energy to it. You see what I'm saying?
I think for me, it's like they want the negativity. They want the low vibrations. I think that's what, like, in my opinion, I feel like that's what feeds it.
Yeah. No, you hit it right on the head. Yeah.
They cause division. They cause all sorts of turmoil. I'm pretty sure they control the media. And everything that goes on in life is dictated by whatever these low frequency feeding beings are.
Yeah.
Whatever these entities, energies, whatever you want to call them. Like, this is, I think I have the glasses. I can't point out who's who, but like, in my opinion, like, I understand the concept of how life can be. And I think this is how it actually is. Like, we live in a world where people want to call them demons. They want to call them interdimensional being. Like, I don't know what it actually is. I just know, I think there's different things around here that feed on our energy.
I think you hit it. Yeah. The interdimensional beings, some people call them inorganic beings, or not organic. So like, I would consider you and I have this conversation. I never met you before, but I would say you're an organic being. You're a being that, you're human, you understand, you feel, you have a heartbeat, you have a soul, but there's inorganic beings too that don't have any regard for human life. So they're going to do whatever they can to manipulate the frequency, manipulate the reality, so that they can cause chaos and destruction and death. They want that with that fear, uncertainty, and doubt. That they always want to place that doubt in your head that, like, you're not that powerful, like you're just woe is me, and like I'm not that powerful, and I'm going to drink, and then I'm going to bring my vibration down, and the demon's going to jump into me and make me do something stupid, because that's really what happened. Because alcohol is demonic, and that's what it does to people too. It's a spirit. So when people drink a lot, that's why they black out, because they know that's when the spirit, that's when or inorganic beings are their most powerful. When you're as lowest vibration as you can possibly be, which is like just fear and guilt and doubt. See what I'm saying?
I always thought it was funny. I think I mentioned this before in another episode, but they call them spirits. Like your drinks are spirits. I was like,
yeah.
Did anyone ever try to make that connection?
I know. They don't teach you that. That's the thing. They don't teach us that. So they don't. You just accept it. It's like, oh, it's spirits, wine and spirits. Oh, okay, cool. Let's go get some. You know, that's consent again. You go in, you pay money, they give you a receipt, you walk out with a spirit, you go drink it, and then the spirit jumps into you, and then you do something stupid. Next thing you know, you're in jail. And it's like, oh shit, what the fuck did I do? How'd I get in jail? It's like, oh, I see why, because I drank spirits, and then the spirit took over, and then I did something stupid, and that's what they want you to do. And then we've all done it, you know. And that's once you recognize it, then you're like, oh, I won't do that anymore. Then that's when they don't have any power. So they live, they don't have any power if we don't give it to them. That's what I've you know, that's all what I always talk about.
It's been a long time since I watched the movie. It's been probably 15, 20 years ago. I don't remember exactly what they were. Were they supposed to be like aliens, or what were they?
Yeah, they depict them as like these aliens that can shoot that look like humans, you know, unless you put the glasses on. So they're in a different frequency, so they can travel far and wide and come back, and then they basically run the show, but they recruit human beings to do their dirty work for them, and they call them the human power elite. When you go back and watch it, and you watch it now, you'll just be like, oh crap, man, this is like everything. This is the whole caboodle in this 1988 film that John Carpenter made, that they pulled out of the theater after 30 days for a reason, because if you really look at it, you'd be like, wait a minute, this could be true. Like they might be all around us all this time. We just can't see them. And that's what the spiritual battle is. They're around us all the time. We just can't see them. But if we put the glasses on and we raise our frequency, you'll be able to see them, and then you'll be able to defend yourself a lot of it easier in an everyday life situation, because that's what the battle is. Right. So you should watch it again. Yeah, you should definitely watch it again.
I plan on it.
I go back and watch it all the time. Like, I'll just be cleaning the house and I'll just throw it on the DVD and just throw it on and put the surround sound on and just listen to it while I'm cleaning, just for the hell of it, just because it just reminds me. Because the words and everything, like the blind guy, what he says and all the stuff he's telling you, like they're unseen. You can't see them outside our limit, outside the limit of our sight, or our owners. They own you. He says outside the limit of our sight is what the blind guy says in the movie, The Blind Priest. So when you really pay attention to the details of it, it really clicks with you. It'll click with you big time.
But I think it's probably, it was it's been almost 15, 20 years ago. So I'll definitely have to go back and look into it, because it's been so long. I watched it once. I'd seen it before, like it was on TV. And this time it was on TV again, but it was unedited. It was it didn't have all the commercials and other stuff cut out of it, but you don't ever really see it on anywhere, and I don't really ever see it on the streaming sites either. That's a great point, Brandon, because I used to say it to my brother all the time. I was like, during the Halloween, on like when I used to have DirecTV and I had all the cable channels, they would never play They Live. Like, it was never like a movie that they would just put on during like Halloween, like a horror movie or whatever like that, or sci-fi. It's never on the channels, and it's very rare on the streaming channel too. Lately, it's been on. I think Amazon Prime had it on for a while. And I think there was one other state they switch around, but it's been out there a lot more than it used to be, though, because people are starting to talk about it a lot more since COVID. You know, people are starting to refer to that movie a lot because it is what we were living. It's our people. They're among us. They're around us. Whether they're not in human bodies, but they cloak themselves because of that reason, because it's a spiritual battle. So that you just can't see. It's the unseen realm, and that's what the blind guy says. It's ironic that the blind priest says, outside the limit of our sights are our owners. You know, it's like, wow, the blind guy says that, so he sees it. The blind guy's a metaphor for the rest of us. Exactly. It's a beauty. That's why when you watch it again, you just be like, oh shit, like this was right here all in front of us. That's why they pulled it out of the theater so quick.
because people would have watched it and it might have went mainstream a little bit more, but it didn't. That's the whole point. So Hollywood pulled it because John Carpenter, like you said earlier, these directors, they know because they're in Hollywood. They know what's going on. They see it, so they're like, all right, well, I'll go along with it, but I'm going to put a little bit of truth in some of this stuff just because I want to push back, because I'm doing this, and I know what I'm doing, but I need to at least put some truth in it for a lot of it's for their own their how you say it, like not their ego, but like their their guilt. Like I should put some truth in here too, so I'm not so like a part of it. You see what I'm saying?
I've often wondered if these type of things want the glory from it, though. Like you mentioned ego. Maybe that is something that they have. Like they want the recognition without being out there in the open about it, but they still get that recognition.
Yeah, that's a good point too. Yeah, I mean, John Carpenter, he puts a lot of stuff in his movies, and then there's a few other ones that definitely went pretty deep into that. So that's a good point. I could see that. Yeah.
I talked to someone recently, and I'm pretty sure it was brought up that some of these old entities that were supposedly demons, like when they forget about them, so they lose their power. They don't have some of that like they used to. So they want people to mention them. They want people to acknowledge them because then that gives them back that energy. They want people to get the energy and attention to them. So I could see where it would be they want that recognition because it goes back and feeds them a little bit, makes them a little stronger.
Yeah, that makes sense too. I could see that because I think that's what's happening now. In the world is that like a lot of people are turning their energy away from these false idols and these actors and these people that are perpetrating this narrative for the unseen realm for the inorganic beings. They're the ones that are the front people for this. So like the Diddy stuff and all that stuff, it's all part of it because they're the ones that are carrying out their dirty deeds for them in the physical, where they can get away with it because they're in the non-physical. They're the they live people that you can't see, and they're using these.
Your audio cut out.
Oh, you can hear me?
I can hear you now.
All right. Yeah.
No, you're in the middle of saying something and your audio cut out. But.
Okay. Yeah, no, what I was saying was that what's happening on the planet now is that these false idols are they're the ones that are keeping us in a low frequency, but a lot of people, they're turning their backs on them. So they're losing their power, they're losing their energy, because people are turning their backs, they're turning off the TV, they're not giving it the energy that they once did. All the ratings are starting to drop. People are turning it off because people are awakening. People definitely are awakening to what's happening, and then it's a good sign because if we awaken, then everybody will be able to see things with the glasses on, and we'll be able to take our power back.
Yeah, there are some weird freaking noises going on around here.
In your place?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. Bigfoot.
No, we're talking about certain things and maybe they're creeping around.
Right. Well, that's a frequency though. You talk about these entities, they're not liking the stuff that we're talking about. I can tell you that because we're talking about awakening and people are going to listen to this and they don't like that. So that's real too. I believe that.
My door, which this happens every once in a while, so it could be part of it, but it did not it just opened up.
Wow.
Yep, maybe it didn't latch all the way or it just popped itself loose, but I'm out here in my little thing and I just heard the creaky noise. I was watching the door just opened up by itself, so I'm kind of freaked out.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, that's it's inorganic beings. It could be anything because that's like I said. I don't like what we're talking about. This isn't mainstream stuff. They don't like that. They don't like that. That's a problem, and this is why we have to talk about it. That's why you and I, people that never met each other, want to have these conversations and put it out there in the ether because we're telling it, we're saying the truth, and we're telling it out loud, and then eventually people will listen to it.
I was going to ask something, and this kind of got me completely sidetracked, so I forget what I was even going to say, but it must have been intentional.
Yeah, probably.
What I was going to say actually was relating to everything, but I completely spaced it now because I just I'm sitting here and I just watch the door open by itself right in front of me. So I'm just like, now my mind is wandering. Because last night, strangely enough, I have security cameras out here and they're motion sensors. So anytime there's movement, it sends it directly to my phone. Well,
Oh,
at 2:33 or something like that last night, it said someone had accessed my security camera in my daughter's bedroom. My daughter's TV supposedly had accessed the camera and was watching the security camera. Well, she's asleep in her room, and I don't know how the TV would access the camera, but I have a notification saying that her bedroom television, because it's all synced up, was watching
wow.
the camera.
Whoa,
So
that's crazy.
I haven't even said anything to my wife about this yet because she's been working, so I haven't really had the conversation with her, and I don't really bring weird stuff up to her all the time because we have enough weird
Yeah,
stuff that goes on in the house anyways.
right.
But this is
Wow.
why how would her TV that's not even on access and be watching my camera out in
Yeah.
the recording area?
It's fucking AI, man. It's scary, dude. Yeah. That's part of it. That's part of what's happening, on the planet too, is the AI, the emergence of wanting us to merge, lose our our human self and give ourselves to the AI, to that type of technology that's self-aware. It's creepy, dude. I deliver cars every once in a while, these electric ones, these new cars, man, and they all have a mind of their own.
No.
They do things that they shouldn't do, and it's very creepy. It freaks me out. Like I'm just like, whoa, like this car's knows me already, and it's a brand new car, and it's already contorting to my style and everything that you do. It's very bizarre, man. It's scary, and it's not a good way that we're headed.
So the things that bother me the most is when I start getting suggested
Yeah.
showings of things, even if I've never even mentioned it, like stuff will start popping up, like random ads for something that I may have thought of. I was like, are they literally reading my friggin' mind? Because
Yeah.
I didn't click
hmm
on anything, I didn't say anything to anyone, and now I'm getting something on here like within the couple minutes of me thinking about it.
Yeah, yeah, it's self-aware. It's that, and that's the other thing is like we're so powerful. Our minds are so powerful that it's a receiver. Our brain's a receiver because everything receives light codes, and we're receiving energy all the time. And that's the other reason why they try to keep the sun from being so bright, because that's the light codes that we receive to help us to see things and to be able to be telepathic. So they can read our radio waves through technology. Then obviously we're that powerful that we could be telepathic. And so they try to keep that frequency low as well. Hence the tinfoil hat. you know, it's a lot
So
of it's crazy.
the tinfoil hat thing, I I took a mannequin head, like it's for like people that have like hats for sale or whatever. They can put it on the like for display.
Yeah.
I took tinfoil and I made a tinfoil hat to it, and I gave him weird eyeballs. They almost look like lizard eyes. And then I was like, well, probably because everyone's reptilian. But but then I give it eyebrows. Everyone's, oh, that's creepy looking. Well, now I take it when I go and do these like conventions or festivals or whatever, and I have a booth set up. I always have my little tinfoil hat guy sitting there too, and everyone's like, "Oh, I need one of those." I was like, you selling any? I'm like,
Oh,
yeah,
that's
like
great.
just go make some hats. I got a tinfoil. It's
Oh my
not a very
God.
expensive thing. Everyone thinks it's joking and stuff, which it is. It's a joke, but it's like
Yeah.
for me, I don't really sit around here with a tinfoil hat on. I mean,
No, you just got to just protect your energy.
right?
Yeah,
Like
but yeah, no, yeah, I get it.
some people actually have asked me, like, do you actually use one? I'm like, no.
That's
I mean,
funny. Oh my God.
I mean,
We
I guess if people do and it works for them, great. But for me, I don't necessarily think that's true. But what do I know?
when we went out to Area 51, obviously they were, some of the restaurant like little bars and stuff out there were, celebrating the whole, Area 51, rushed Area 51. So they were taking advantage of it. So they had a bunch of like, you know, I think one of the beer companies gave them these blow up aliens, and then they gave them a bunch of tinfoil hats. So we took a picture of all of us with the tinfoil hats on, with our aliens surround us. It's an epic picture. Yeah, I think.
Is there anything else that you would like to discuss before we kind of wrap this one up? You don't have any audio again.
Hello?
I can hear you.
You hear me now?
Yep.
All right.
Now, is there anything else you'd like to discuss before we wrap this one up?
I don't think so. You did mention everybody's reptilian, which I thought was funny. Just to go into that real quick. The whole they live thing, like that's the way I kind of see when you put the glasses on. Like the ones that you can't see are the ones that are cloaked themselves in human flesh that are actually like alien reptilians.
Right.
So when you watch it again, you'll think of that too. You're like, oh shit, maybe that is true.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
There's all sorts of weird stuff out there that, like I said, I think Hollywood kind of just, it throws it up in your face. You either acknowledge it and go along with it or you don't. But for me, it's just like, I think there's a lot more to it than just being entertainment.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's definitely subconscious programming that we consent to, and that's what it comes down to. And the more we turn our energy away from it, the less power that it has over us. That's really what's happening.
Right.
Yeah, that's really what it comes down to.
I'm just gonna have to start locking my door when I come out here so they can't pop it open.
Yeah, if you start talking about stuff they don't want you to talk about, they're gonna start messing with you.
Right.
Like, oh, open this door, scare them, freak them out.
So I'm just
Cut.
the whole door thing's got my whole energy. Again, like with stuff we talk about, it's got my whole
I know.
energy like vibe out here a little different. Like I said before we started recording, when I talked, I was hearing noises right outside, like right against the wall, and it sounded like I messaged my wife and asked if she was out here messing with the trash cans because something sounded like it was beating on the side of the wall out here. So I walked out and didn't see anything, and I came back in and you hopped on here, and now this freaking I was hearing again, it almost sounded like scratching noises, and all of a sudden the door pops open.
Right.
So I'm like, someone out here screwing around with me, or am I going to get attacked by a dog man?
Right. Dog man. Some kind of alien.
Right.
They're probably coming. They're going to show themselves soon. Hopefully, that'll be the next step. Hopefully, they'll just start showing themselves. They'll be like, "Hey, we're here."
It'd be interesting, but we'll see what happens.
Oh God!
All right, John, we're going to wrap this one up. You want to let everyone know where they can find your podcast at?
Oh, I lose you again.
I can hear you. I can't hear you now. Can you hear me?
All right.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I don't know what's going on. Like now my internet's screwing up.
All right. See if these inorganic beings are messing with us.
Right.
Oh,
you want to let
boy.
the audience know where they can check out your podcast at?
Yeah. We're on Spotify at TGI Now Podcast, and then on Rumble, TGI Now Podcast, and Apple Podcast, TGI Now Podcast, and then we're on X at TGI Now Podcast. So
Awesome.
we're all over, so you can catch us anywhere. We do one a week, so we do one every week. Not like you're knocking them out, but it's way ahead of time. I love it. It's a lot of work, man. Proud of you.
It is a lot, but I enjoy it. It's my little escape from reality, I guess. So everyone needs something. I've like used to have a band and everything else. So for me, this is the next creative outlet for me, is to just discuss weird stuff with people because I feel like these things need to be mentioned.
No, you're doing You're doing a great job. It takes a lot of work. I mean, so we do one a week, and that's a lot. We call it our poker night. We just sit in the room and just speak our truth. So it's more of this has to happen so that we help people awaken to what's what stuff that they're confused by, that they don't really believe. They might be the only one that feels that way, and now they can listen to people like us and be like, oh, these guys feel the same way I do.
Right.
That's all.
Well, John, it's been a pleasure talking with you.
Yeah, man, you too. I appreciate your time, and I look forward to hearing some of your podcasts. You're really doing a great job. Keep up the great work.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
Yep. Have a good one.
All right, you too.
And that's the show, everyone. I really hope you guys enjoyed the conversations. If you would like to be a guest on Tinfoil Tales, remember to send an email to tinfoiltalespodcast@gmail.com or go to the contact section of tinfoiltales.com. Just get your message to me. We'll get something scheduled for a future episode. And just remember, the truth lies in the stories we share, the connections we make. Stay curious, stay open-minded. Thank you all for joining us on this journey. And until next time, keep questioning, keep seeking, and keep exploring the unknown. Good night, everyone.
Tinfoil Tales in my headphones. Yeah, it's time to rock. Got a story about a cryptid creature. Let's take a walk. Bigfoot, Dogman, they're out there in the dark. But the truth is out there like an alien spark. UFO sightings got the whole world shook. Conspiracies unfold like a story in a book. Media control, trying to keep us blind. But I won't be fooled, gonna use my whole mind. In history, they don't want us to know the secrets they're hiding, the truth they won't show. Dominate our society, they keep us in chains. But I'm standing tall, it's time to break the reins. Control, trying to keep us blind. But I won't be fooled, gonna use my own mind. In history